My name is Neil Perkins, a farm at Dinas Island Farm, North Pembrokeshire, on a coastal headland. We're farming 1,600 ewes plus 400 followers, lambing indoors but on a low input grass-based system. We started using boluses 2 years ago to address trace element problems in the sheep. We've already found success in them. One of the first benefits we found is it's cut our empty rates at scanning down by 50%. On 1,500 ewes we scanned this year, there was only 29 empty, so previous years it's been up to 60 plus, so we feel that the trace elements there alone have paid for themselves. We've also found the condition in the ewes exceptional due to the slow release side of it. They're getting what they need on a consistent basis, and so constantly having little and often, as I say, which suits them well. The trace elements on this farm are quite complex. I farm in partnership with my father, Roger Perkins. He'll tell you a bit about the historic issues of the trace elements here.
Well, we've always had a bit of a problem with trace elements. We used to have a lot of cobalt pine and problems like that, and we tried feeding all sorts of mineral buckets, but we couldn't get the sheep to eat it. Then one day we had a chap came on the yard and he looked at the trace elements actually in the grasses. We found that we were very, very high in molybdenum, and molybdenum was locking up a lot of these trace elements, and all the buckets you could purchase off the shelf already had molybdenum in, so the sheep wouldn't take any extra. So we had our purpose-made buckets made without molybdenum. It helped us a lot. It got rid of a lot of the cobalt pine and a lot of the other problems, but we felt that it wasn't hitting the whole problem, and we felt that not all the ewes were actually going up to take from the buckets. By using the boluses now, we know that every single ewe has got the right trace elements put into it, and it's slow release there, so it's there every day of their lives then.
What has it meant for your business to reduce the empty rates by such an extent?
You're carrying the ewes for the whole year, and you've got to feed them the grass. They're taking the grass from the other sheep which are producing lambs and things like that. I think you just need those extra lambs to sort of put yourself on top of the game. You know, that's all top end margin then.
And just going back to Neil, what are the lambs like when they're born?
They're looking strong. We're very happy with the lamb crop we've had this year. We're hoping that the trace elements will pass through the ewes onto the lambs and then benefit them that way. We're going to start grading now in the next couple of weeks. We're hoping by the look of the lambs that we should be able to have a good few pulls before weaning time, which will mean that more mouths are off the ground, which will obviously put the grass into other animals' mouths. So we're quite pleased with it.
When do you bolus the ewes?
We bolus the ewes twice a year. The first time we do them would be when we turn them over in July, doing the health check on them. That'll set them up for the remaining summer into tupping. And then the second time we do it then is about 6 weeks prior to lambing, when we do the clostridial vaccines. This obviously then sets them up ready for the sort of the harsher part of carrying lambs, where it's harder on them, and then obviously pass through to the milk and benefit the lambs. We then anticipate on bolusing the remaining lambs then at weaning time, obviously because they won't be getting it through the milk, which will then carry them through to finishing and hopefully speed that end of the process up.
It's very much a grassland system that you've got here. You run the clean flock on grass for a large part of the year. It must be reassuring for you to know that they're getting the trace element, that constant stream of trace element through the bolus.
That's right. I mean, it doesn't matter how good a forage you grow for an animal. If they're not getting their essential elements, they're not obviously going to thrive. You can put as much fuel in the tank as you want, but it's how they utilise that fuel at the end of the day. So, like Father mentioned earlier, basically we probably feel that the ones that need it the most weren't going up to the lick buckets. So by giving them the boluses, absolutely every animal is benefiting and their engines are highly tuned.
And the results that you've had in this year's crop of ewes, it must give you great confidence to continue using the bolus in the future.
Certainly, yes. There's one thing we decided after starting addressing this problem many years ago, is that we can't sheep farm basically without some kind of trace elements going into the sheep. We find that this is probably the most efficient way of doing it, and a way that we know if you spend the time when you're administering them, you know that everything's going to benefit.